Hi, Igor. So I see that you've got another set of essays here for us. Great. We'll look at them right away. But before we do, I just want to address the questions you asked in your email. The first thing you asked about was length. I think you were concerned that your answers are over 300 words. That's fine. There is no word maximum in IELTS. There's just a word minimum, and even that has changed essentially. So there is no word maximum. The point is that you have to be able to write as well and as accurately as you can within those 40 minutes so that you have time for both tasks. To be quite honest with you, I have found in my years involved with IELTS that it's actually very difficult to have a very well developed essay under 300 words. So don't be worried about it. As long as your writing is accurate and on topic and it's well developed, and it answers the question, then please feel free to write more than 300 words. It's fine. So don't worry about it. Just make sure that, like I said, the thing that I want you to be more focused on is, that you're able to complete the essay in 40 minutes, okay? So that should answer your first question. The second question was about the overview. You asked me if I thought it could come right after the introduction or at the end. There is no one answer about this. My personal feeling, and having talked to lots of other examiners, is that it's a good idea to have the overview right after the introduction for a number of reasons. But the fact is that examiners are not going to grade you lower or higher either way. In terms of the organization of ideas, it's a wise idea to put it right after your introduction because, as the name implies, it's an overview. It gives you just like a general kind of sense of the diagram. It's not a conclusion. If that's what they were looking for, I think they would have named it conclusion. So it's supposed to kind of give you an overall feeling for what you're going to look at so that then you can get into the details. So it most certainly can be, and quite frankly, that's where I prefer to see it, right after the introduction. There are some other strategic reasons why you might want to put it right after your introduction. One of those reasons is that some people choose to do task 2 first. Okay, so they write task 2 first, and then they write task 1 with whatever time is left. Now, if you write the overview right after your introduction, then you can pretty much guarantee that you'll be safe, that you won't have left it out. But if you wait to write it until the end and you run out of time, then you're in a difficult situation because without an overview, you can't get a band 6. Okay, so if you're one of those people who likes writing task 2 first, and then you write task 1, then most certainly your overview should come right after your introduction. All right, so we spent a ton of time talking about your questions, so let's go on and go straight into your essays now, okay? So this is about traveling with family for business. Let's see what you wrote. Experts throughout both the developing and developed countries have debated whether the effects of workers taking their families with them when traveling for business are positive or negative. I strongly agree that the positive consequences, such as the support given by the family, outweigh the negative results, for example, the distraction caused by the presence of the family. All right, I like it. I like it actually quite a bit, although I did feel like this was a little superfluous, such as the support given by family, the presence of the family. I think it was this, by the family of the family. I wanted you to make this a little more cohesive, maybe use a little ellipsis, maybe not repeat some of the same words again. So, for example, the distraction caused by the family, or, for example, the distraction the family creates. Okay? So just some way to kind of break it up a little bit and not make it seem so similar. But other than that, it's lovely. Let's move on. On one hand, there is ample evidence that when some professionals take their families with them on a business trip, they feel more confident and engaged with the trip proposal. I don't like that word proposal. I don't think it fits here, Igor. The central reason behind this is twofold. First, the family can provide ideas and give feedback, singular, for some business issues. Okay. Secondly, the worker will be able to spend the free time among loved ones. Okay. Not the free time, but his or her free time with his or her loved ones would probably be better. For example, recent empirical research by the Microsoft Group has shown that 80% of the employees doing business this is a little awkward too, Igor. On business trips with their families are more committed and have brought better results from the trip than those traveling without their families. All right, that's some nice grammar there. Therefore, it's conclusively clear that taking the family on, not in, on a business trip is a, not an, positive development, which brings benefits not only for the employee but also for the employer. All right, good. Cohesive, well developed. I mean, it was lovely. It was fine. So let's go straight ahead. On the other hand, although taking family on, again, a business trip can have some benefits, the negative impacts cannot be neglected. This is largely because the family can be a distraction. The employer will not work with the necessary focus to bring the expected results. For instance, an extensive study from Auckland University showed that workers who travel with their families are less able to work overtime or to extend the trip duration. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that taking family on a business trip can compromise the results and the purpose of the trip. All right, that's lovely. I didn't have to correct anything, really. It was well done. It was structured well. It was a pretty textbook paragraph here. I thought you did very well with it. Okay, so let's take a look at your conclusion. Overall, it is not a not a common sense. We just say common sense without the article. So overall, it is not common sense whether the advantages of taking family on business trips outweigh the negative points. I don't really care for that expression, to be honest with you, Igor. It is not common sense whether, it's a little overly complicated and it's difficult to kind of discern the meaning. So I would have liked this to be a little clearer. Not necessarily simpler, but clearer. So I would like to see this rephrased. I totally believe that this is a positive development and it should be always encouraged by companies. Get rid of the. Okay, I thought you did a very nice job. This was the paragraph that you supported. This was the paragraph that you didn't support. I want to give you one extra little suggestion here. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it is a suggestion that I want you to consider. A lot of IELTS tutors will suggest to you that this paragraph comes second because this is the one you support. Basically, whenever you think about an argument, you always present the weakest arguments first. You always present the side you don't support first, whether that's in debate, whether that's in writing, whether that's wherever. So this is what we typically do. We talk about the side we don't truly support or don't truly think is as strong. And then after that, we go into detail about the side that we do support or the side that we think is stronger. It acts like an anchor, okay? And it attaches it closer to your conclusion, which restates your opinion. So you may want to consider this. You may want to, in future essays, reverse these two paragraphs so that the paragraph you've told us in your introduction that you support comes last, closer to conclusion, so it stays fresh in the mind of the reader. All right, so we've talked about this also quite a bit, so let's go ahead and move on to your task one, which is about rainfall. So let's see what you said here. Actually, I know this is 150 words, but I do want to just double check. It looks like 150. Yep, it's exactly 150. All right, now this is a tricky one to get done in 150, so I'm actually surprised that it was exactly 150 words, but let's see what you wrote and see if maybe you left some things out. This is one that I think kind of needs a little more meat on its bones, as it were. All right, so let's see what you said. The line chart, it's not called a line chart, it's called a line graph. So it's bar chart, pie chart, line graph. So the line graph illustrates the rainfall in 3 different countries, England, Scotland, and Wales during the year of 2018. Get rid of, use R and ML. Overall, England, you don't want this tense had been showing. England showed less fluctuation of rain quantity when compared with the other 2 countries and higher rain Average during the analyzed year, roughly 100 ml monthly. Now, this was fine, but I don't want to see data. In general, you don't want to include data in your overview because that's what an overview is. It's an overview. It's a basic synopsis. It's a summary. It gives you the general feeling of the graph without going into detail. The minute you start introducing quantities or numbers or any kind of figures in your answer, it no longer feels like an overview. So avoid it and just give the general sense of what you're looking at. All right, moving on. The highest fluctuation was in Scotland, where in February the rainfall was roughly 20 ml, and in the following month rapidly jumped to approximately 130, reaching a peak. The same peak was also reached in October. So what do we have for Scotland? We have 1, 2, 3 figures. Fine. In Wales, that doesn't make sense. The highest quantity of rainfall was in July with 130, while the driest month was April with 25. Wales presented the longest stabilized rain period among the 3 countries. This continuous rainfall period was between August and October, with around 40 ml monthly. England had its rainfall fluctuate, get rid of this D, between 75 and 128 ml, hitting ING a low in July and a low in June and a peak in July. All right, so I tried counting up your points of data, and I think you had about 11. It was fine, but it wasn't nearly as detailed or developed as it could have been. What you basically did was you picked those highs and those lows, and that was it. And this chart, and the good thing though is that you did talk about this period of stability, so I was happy about that. But the fact is that there are some more points that I think are worthwhile to mention here, especially if you're aiming for one of those higher scores. Now, this is obviously, it's a year, and so what you have essentially is 36 different points of data. Should you mention all of them? Of course not. Can you? I hope not. But there are some that are important. You mentioned 11 of the important points. That's great. But there are a couple of more that I think ideally I would like to see in this kind of an answer. So let me show you what they are, and you'll see that it's actually really quite easy to do. So basically, when you're looking at a year, the year is telling you a story. It's telling you the story of rain in these 3 areas, okay? So when you hear a story or when you tell a story, what points do you include? You include the beginning, you include the most important middle points, and you include the end, right? So what does that mean? That means if you start off with Scotland, you'll say that it started off the year the highest at whatever the number that is, then lowest point, so we have 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 point for these peaks, and then where it ended, the 5th point. Okay, so for Scotland, you should be able to include a total of 5 data points here, okay? With England, you can do the exact same thing. England started the year at the 2nd highest point. It was whatever number that is. What is that, 115, 110? Okay, in January. And then you want to mention the 2nd point, the low here. And then it had 3 peaks of the same quantity. Okay, so again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 data points for England. And then let's see if you can guess what they are for Wales. It should be pretty easy here. The first one, the second one, the third one. This on its own is important because it's the only period of stability we have. And then the 5th one. So you could do this with 15 points, okay, 5 for each country. And it would be a little more developed than what you have because you pretty much got them right. But you did miss those beginnings and the ends, and I think you could have mentioned like a couple of the other peaks here. Like, for example, England had 3 peaks. Mention it. Why not? But in general, I like what you did. You're so on the right track, okay? Really, very much so. So let's just kind of tweak some of this. Let's adjust some of it and get it as perfect as we can get it, okay? So good job, and let's see what you write for us in your next set. Good luck.